Hey everybody! So a few weeks ago, an Etsy seller reached out to me asking if I'd like to try one of her handmade watercolor journals. So of course I said yes. Her store is called ArtsiRosi and she makes these beautiful handmade journals with hard covers and Arches paper. So who could say no to that? So today I'm going to be unwrapping and trying out this journal for the first time. I'm really excited. Let's get into it. Alright, so here's her shop. You can see across her banner it shows those rolls of the Arches paper and then these beautiful watercolor journals that she makes using that paper. It looks like she has a lot of different options with cold pressed and hot pressed paper, and I think it's just so fun that she customizes those eyelets and the bindings for you. It looks so pretty. So this is the journal that she sent me. It's the 6 by 8.5 inch size journal. First of all, let me show you guys how cute is this paper that it was wrapped in this elephant washi tape. So cute. So I'm just going to unwrap it. She packaged it so nice. Wow, there it is. Now I should mention that she asked me what my favorite colors were. When I said pink, of course, she made the thread and the eyelets pink just to kind of match my favorite color. So extra touch right there. It comes with these 2 rubber band straps to keep it shut. And you can see the edges of the paper are that wonderful deckled edge of Arches watercolor paper. I chose cold pressed, and these are 140-pound sheets. But right off the bat, you can really see the quality of the binding. Look at this beautiful work here on the edges. And I can tell that this will hold up really well. And it's really nice that it is kind of spiral bound. I think it should help it stay open a little easier. We'll have to see. Let's take the rubber bands off. So upon first opening this up, it almost looks like they're pockets, but check it out. They are all separate papers. Now, because these pages were made from a roll instead of flat sheets, the paper definitely likes to roll back on itself. So with a little note that was included in my journal, Rosi, who hand makes these books herself, suggests that when you start painting, the paper will flatten out, and while you're painting, to keep those pages flat, you can use the included rubber bands on the very edges of your page to hold the book open on either side. This does work really well. Also, she says you can use both sides of the pages, which is really nice. I wasn't sure how many pages there are, but after counting, there are 20 pages, and double-sided, that's 40 paintings that you could do in this journal, which is amazing. She's got her shop information right here and a little sticker at the bottom, and it also mentions that this is Arches cold press watercolor paper, 140-pound and 100% cotton. So you know this is going to be quality. I'm not sure why, but I don't think Arches makes any watercolor journals with their paper. It all comes in either large rolls, large sheets, blocks, or pads. And so this is quite a treat to have this beautiful journal with the best quality watercolor paper on the market in all of these sheets. So I'm really excited to try it. For my painting, I just opted to use bull clips. Use whatever you need to keep your pages open, but the included rubber bands are quite sufficient. Because mine were kind of small, I had to use 2, one at the bottom and one at the top. But it works, so I'm really excited to dive into this painting. I went ahead and used washi tape around the edges just so I'll have nice borders, and I chose this image from Laguna Beach that I snapped myself. Let's get into the painting. The first thing I want to do is to test out this paper and see how well it does with masking fluid. If you've worked with Arches paper before, you know that it's amazing paper and it will most likely handle this wonderfully. I started with a small liner brush, and I used my Daniel Smith masking fluid just to paint on little blobs of masking fluid to protect the pure white of the paper, especially in areas where that water is foamy and white. While the masking fluid dried, I took a pencil and just lightly sketched on the distant horizon line and landscape in the background. Next, I took a large round brush, this is a size 8 Kolinsky Sable round brush, and painted on clean water. I then applied a combination of ultramarine blue and turquoise blue for the pure blue sky, wet and wet. The paint disperses so evenly. And to create the illusion of distance, I also used the wet and wet technique for that landscape in the background. And I also tested out some lifting by swiping my clean damp brush into the landscape to restore some of the white. For the water itself, I opted for wet and dry. If you have a large enough brush, you can do this quite easily. The nice thing about using wet and dry with a textured cold press paper like this too is that your brush can skip along the surface of the paper. You can allow your brush to miss some of the little gaps in the paper, especially if it's a rough or cold press surface like this, and that works wonders for creating the effect of sparkling and glittering water. Here across the foreground, I applied a little bit more brown so that it looks like the sand, and then began to darken some of the shadows in the water itself. I applied a second layer of blue to the water and deepened up some of those ripple shadows, and then I boosted some of the color in the water with turquoise blue and ultramarine. The fully narrated real-time version of this tutorial, by the way, is available through my online school. I'll leave a link for that in the description below. So with this initial painting with the sketchbook, I did try to test out all of my favorite techniques like lifting, masking fluid, wet and wet, wet and dry, and all of them performed so beautifully. I even used some opaque white paint at the very end, and of course the Arches paper lives up to the hype, and what a treasure to have it in this beautiful handmade notebook. So if, like me, you don't have time to create and hand make your own watercolor journals, I definitely recommend checking out ArtsiRosi's Etsy shop. So there's the finished painting. Now the final test is to see how the paper holds up with the tape. And it held up beautifully. You can see our edges were perfectly preserved. So the first painting obviously didn't help flatten the book, but it's a great start, I think. And this was so much fun. I can't wait to fill these pages. Honestly, this is just a beautiful book and it's going to be a joy to use. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out ArtsiRosi's Etsy shop. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in another video.